A caving expedition goes horribly wrong as the explorers become trapped and ultimately pursued by a strange breed of predators. The Descent is up next on Inside Movies. Hey guys, welcome to another episode of Inside Movies. Today we're talking The Descent. My name is George Michail. I'm a comic book maker, and I am joined by the editor-in-chief of Merc Publishing, Murphey, writer-illustrator GMB CHOMICHUK, and novelist Andrew Buckley. All right, let's get into it. What do we like about The Descent? What's the good?
Everything.
Yeah, this movie is such a great horror film. But let me begin first with the apocryphal story of Neil Marshall. Anyone who can find the real story, I'd love to know. But I've heard through a few places that Neil Marshall originally pitched this movie on the strength of it begins as a bunch of women having a slumber party in the woods, and then they're going to get eaten by monsters. In a time when producers would not make horror movies that were not salaciously taking advantage of female casts. But The Descent could not be farther from that as a film. And so much so that the scene where they're actually in the slumber party at the beginning, all of them are wearing like flannel pajamas up to their necks. There's not an inch of skin. There's no sexuality like forced into the narrative. It's just a movie about the most badass group of people going into the worst situation imaginable. Oh, I love this movie so much.
Yeah, the range of they had what? There was 6, 7 women that went down into the caves.
6 women.
6 women. Okay, so the range that they like
7 if you count the ghost. What?
The range of the characters and personalities that they wrote in this is definitely like none of them were a stereotype. All of them were pretty well-rounded characters, and I really, really enjoyed that. And Juno, I hated her.
You're supposed to.
I hated her so much, and she did so good at being a character to hate, and that's something that I have such massive respect for in any type of film, but especially in this one where I really, really hated her. But then I felt legitimately awful for her when she accidentally, spoilers ahead, stabs one of her friends in the neck because she was in this like life or death situation, and I could see, you know, that they made you really, really hate her, and then that actress that when she like nearly kills her friend, who does end up obviously dying, you see legitimate just terror and guilt on her face. I mean, that actress is phenomenal. Like everybody in this film, I think did a really, really great job, but she specifically, I think, just knocked it out of the park.
Yeah, the cast in this movie is so good. There's a moment in the film, also spoilers ahead, where so the essential premise is that a bunch of people go caving. It's part of a ritual that they go on these big adventures every year, and it's the first one they go on after a horrible tragedy. They've brought a lot of bad baggage with them on this caving expedition, and a bunch of things go wrong. They get lost, someone gets hurt, there's no hope. And then right when there's no hope in the normal tragedy, monsters freaking crawl out of the darkness and eat them one by one. But the scene that is absolutely the best scene, they're not even acting in. They are flawless actors through this whole film. But the first time the monster is revealed in the film, they didn't tell any of the principal actors that scene was going to happen. They just had them in the cave. They didn't show them the monster or monster designs at any point until the point where it was revealed to them on set, in character, as a surprise. So their shrieks of utter terror are because those actors found a monster on the set in the dark for the first time. And that's the take that they're using.
That is magnificent. And as far as storytelling goes, especially in a horror film, to not reveal the monsters until at least probably halfway through the film is such a dangerous choice. But they really made a way of making the caves themselves seem like the monster until you find the actual monsters. That that whole thing. This movie is just, again, this is my first time watching this. I was on the edge of my seat. Like, I was so stressed out. The beginning half, it's so crazy. The Ritual is one of my favorite horror movies of all time. And in the first 20 minutes of this movie, I was like, this is just The Ritual. Like, The Ritual just copied this, but it's not. It's The Ritual, but in caves, except for The Ritual came after. But that's neither here nor there.
Yes, and stay tuned. Next week, we're reviewing The Ritual. So if you like that movie, that'll be up on the channels coming soon. So one thing that this movie does brilliantly is it talks about, like, so I went into this movie. I saw it 17 years ago when it first came out, and it was like my favorite horror movie of the year when it came out. And what it does, though, is it has things in it and topics in it that I'm actually afraid of, right? Like, I went to see it for monsters, right? But I'm not really afraid of monsters. I'm afraid of, like, my family dying in a car accident, and they have that right in the beginning, and it's horrific, and the woman's haunted. That's, like, a lot of people's, like, worst nightmare right there. And then it has being confined in small spaces. When she's climbing through that small part of the cave and she gets stuck, like, I could almost, like, barely continue. Like, my anxiety was, like, just getting, like, through the roof when she couldn't get through, and then she starts to move, and then the rocks start to move. I was like, for fuck's sakes. And that scene where the monster first shows up, it scared the shit out of me so bad. I was rewatching it the other day, and I'm watching it by myself, and my wife and her friend are out on the deck, and I jumped up and I was like, Jesus fucking Christ. And I, like, stood up and I, like, put the show on pause, and I had to take a break from the movie because it scared the piss out of me, man. I was just, like, through the roof. It was, yeah, this movie's intense. It's great.
And if we want to unpack it for a minute, the reason why it is so scary is that the characters are intrinsically motivated. There's so much tension in the cast for all of these other things. You're talking about the fears that are on there. There's the trauma of the lost child, the trauma of the lost husband, the knowledge that one of her best friends is the reason that her husband is distracted and is killed, and her daughter is killed. All of that is all baked into this idea of somebody, Juno in this case, trying to fix it all in the worst way possible. And then monsters show up. So there's all this layer upon layer upon layer of interesting, motivated, emotionally compelling story, plus monsters. And the monsters are so good. The practical effects are delicious in this film.
Well, and I think one of the best parts about the monsters, and this is something that I love, it's something that's happened in Doctor Who here and there in episodes that always really, really just gets under my skin, is that the monster was human. It was human, and it was just locked into this place, and it became something else over these. They said they found that piece of equipment, and they said that it's been 100 years since anyone has used this. So these monsters down there, they're not monsters. They're humans that have evolved into these hellish, evil creatures that just, they're blind, and they're like, skin is all white, and they've got these crazy ears, and they just eat. That's all they want. They just want to eat. And I just, that to me is what makes this so scary, is that to me, that's always seemed like a much more real type of monster, when this is humanity gone wrong. And it's so creepy. I love it.
Oh, hey. This is my favorite horror movie of all time. I've seen it about 20 times. I loved it since it came out for all the reasons that you guys have said. But it's two different movies. It's a survival movie combined with a creature movie, and it's blended so seamlessly that it works in tandem together like nothing I've ever seen before. The subtle slow build of it, I mean, all the dramatic tension that it starts off with, the creepiness of the cave system, and then all the little, like, hints where she shines a light, sees one crouching on a rock, goes back and it's gone. the hook in the ceiling, like it's all built so nicely, and it's and beat for beat when Juno stabs Beth through the fucking neck. It's a heartbreaking, brutal scene, and even so much so more when Juno just fucking leaves Beth to die and goes away. But also the satisfaction of when Sarah, who played by Shauna McDonald, is absolutely fearsome. Like when she stabs Juno through the leg and just fucking leaves her for dead, and then goes away. Oh, it's so beautiful.
It's a bury the hatchet scene, but not in the way that you would want.
It
Right?
is very true.
It's time for us to bury the hatchet and stand together against these monsters. No, I'm going to stab you in the leg and leave you to die the way you betrayed me and ruined my life. It's amazing.
Yeah, it was a good little revenge piece.
This is like a small budget film, right? And like normally, like small budget films, you're like in a warehouse or you're in a house. It's like a small location. And I just find the cave system to be such a cool one location movie, like because it feels different, especially with all the different lighting they do. They've got the headlamps and they've got the torches and the flares, and it just illuminates the area just so differently. And it just seems so cool.
You're pointing out the strength. So a small budget movie, it's exactly like you say. They usually have to like just get a big warehouse and they shoot some scary thing in an old warehouse. Well, they did that exact thing. Those caves are sets built in an old warehouse. When she's
really? I thought that was a cave.
No, when she's squeezing under into that little place and the water is pouring down, that thing she's squeezing through is a bathtub. So that and they shoot it from the top so that you can't tell, but it holds the water and doesn't ruin the set. So she can wriggle up into the. It's sets, man. That's what this movie is. Genius. They're on set.
That is incredible.
If you love blood, why not check out Born of Blood? They've got an exclusive New York Comic-Con variant. Murphy, can you tell us a little bit about this?
Oh, yeah. Born of Blood. It's bloody. It's gore. It's a badass woman. So if you love The Descendant, you're going to love Born of Blood. We are doing a big launch at New York Comic-Con for issue number 1. We've got some awesome exclusives by Peter Smith, by Sora Sung. You guys are going to want to check this out. Find us at New York Comic-Con. Booth will be in the description. And if you can't make it out to the con, totally get it. mercpublishing.com. Check out Born of Blood number 1. Brand new badass lady series.
Nice. Yes, and there's a link to Merc Publishing in the description of this video. All right, let's get into the bad. What do we not like about The Descent?
They made a sequel.
Oh, yeah, that's true.
They made a sequel. And you know why they made the sequel? Because Neil Marshall did what many filmmakers have to do. They sign away those rights of a film they pour their heart and soul into. And then it's successful enough that when they make the sequel, they don't ask you back. And
that's really unfortunate.
It's so bad. It undoes everything good about the first one. If you just pretend that there was never a sequel, you'll be happier. I promise.
I really only have one bad thing. Like I enjoyed all of this movie. It was suspenseful. It was gory. It was emotional. At the end, the main character escapes from the cave after leaving her friend, her frenemy to die. She gets out, she gets to the car, she almost gets hit, which I thought was a kind of a big, like kind of last like sigh of relief. And then she looks to her side and she sees her friend covered in blood and it just ends. And I'm like, what? Like, okay, either leave the cave or don't leave the cave. Like, that was just such a bullshit. That was like a cop out to not make a decision on whether or not she was going to like live.
Oh, I saw it as like she was like haunted by her
ghost.
Her ghost, and just like she had been haunted by her daughter and her husband having died at the beginning of the movie. So for me, the ending worked.
But which version did you guys see? There's 2 different endings to this movie. I have a favorite. So which ones did you watch?
I saw the original theatrical release, like where there is no way out. They don't get out of the cave.
That's my favorite one.
Yeah. That is the best. That's the only one, as far as I'm concerned. That is
It's
the
so
worst.
bleak and horrible. It's amazing.
The ending I saw was she's driving in the car down the road, and then she sees the ghost of Juno, and then it ends abruptly.
Yeah, no, that's bullshit. In the proper ending of the
Yes.
film, you think she's gotten away. You think she's seen the way out, but then she's actually in the cave looking at the cake that her little ghost of a daughter is presented to her. She's completely lost her mind. She's covered in gore, and she is trapped in that cave, about to become one of these creatures for all time or be eaten by them.
But the intention of this movie, Neil Marshall's intention for this movie, was to have it end with Sarah not escaping that cave. Like, this is supposed to be totally bleak and fucked up, which is a very UK way to end something. It was and it was popular in the UK. UK audiences, zero issues with that ending. When they screened it to American screening audiences, the main comment that came out was it was described as uber hopeless. And North Americans just can't take anything without some kind of sense of hope. So they had to cap that piece on there that Sarah gets out. Yeah, she's haunted by her dead friend, but we can deal with ghosts. But you can't just put it back in the cave where it's bleak and shit. That only works with Europeans.
I really want to see the other ending. I'm gonna have to do some YouTube digging to see if that's. I'm sure it's available everywhere because I feel like I would respect that a lot more. Honestly,
It pays off the scenes at the beginning of the film. It's a perfect parenthetical moment if she doesn't escape and the guilt and fear and rage that is consumed her actually eats her alive, causes her to murder her own friends, and she's trapped in the cave. And all she has is that vision of the one pure thing that she lost, which is her daughter, who joins her in the cave as a vision or a ghost, and has a birthday cake, which is like, you're reborn. Like, the whole thing is there. If you tack on this other stupid, hopeful bit, it undoes all the storytelling.
Greg, I have a question. So, in the version that you and I really like, at what point does it become a dream? Does she actually stab Juno in the leg, or does it all happen previous to that point?
There's an art. Okay, so I used to, with film students of mine, I used to watch this film, and I would ask this question, which is, did they die when the cave collapsed? And is she just mad after that point? And that would open up a lot of discussions. You can go back and watch this film once you've seen it and ask yourself what Andrew just said. If the monsters are even real, and did they kill her friends, or did she go mad and kill her friends? There's a lot of evidence to suggest she might have just gone mad and killed all of her buddies out of grief.
You can hear the crawlers, though. You can hear the crawlers in that final scene where she's blowing out the birthday cake because they're all closing in on her.
But only if there were crawlers to begin with.
I guess. Point. Yeah.
she is the only one that is completely covered in blood from head to toe.
Exactly.
Like,
Yeah.
and that was actually one thing that I noticed, that I thought it was odd that there was like a pond of blood in their little tomb down there. So I think that actually does kind of lead more to the question of, has she just lost her shit and gone on a rampage, and that's why she is the one that is just completely covered in head to toe in that.
Which then ties back, Murphy, to George's point, which is like, what makes a good horror movie is that it has real things to be afraid of. What we'd be afraid of is losing everything, including our humanity, and hurting the people that we once loved. Like, this is a real horror movie if it begs that question.
Okay, let's get into the skinny. Let's give her final grades for The Descent.
Okay. 500-year-old climbing apparatuses out of 6. Is that what they're called?
500 out of 6.
No, five out of 6
100-year.
climbing 500-year-old climbing apparatuses.
Okay.
I give this 5 large rocks used to put Beth out of her misery out of 5.
Oh.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, I also have to give it a 5 out of 5 rating. I give it 5 out of 5 proper ending birthday cakes in a cave, soaked in blood, There is no other ending, just the original ending.
I'm gonna give it an A. I like this movie. It's a good horror movie with characters that you really care about. I really felt for Sam. I really felt the real world horror held up even better than the monster stuff, which is like, you know, you got me there for, you know, bat orc kind of monsters in the dark, but you sold me with or what resonated with me was the female characters and like the real world horror. So that's going to do it for another episode of Inside Movies. I've been George Michail, joined by Murphey, GMB CHOMICHUK, and Andrew Buckley. Follow along on our Facebooks, our Instagram, our Twitters. Links to all those in the description of this video. And Born of Blood. Go get the New York Comic-Con exclusive and go check out the Merc Publishing website. All in the description of this video. Until next time, peace.